The internet spoke and Goodreads crowned its top horrors of 2025. I, Little, the brave, have volunteered to go through the top 5 and see whether or not they really deserve to be there. So hi guys, welcome back to the channel. As you can tell, we're looking at the top 5 horror books according to the Goodreads. It's a great set of awards because they are voted for by readers. And you know that I love my weird and wonderful horrors, but sometimes, you know I love my weird and wonderful horrors, but sometimes popular doesn't always mean the best. So let's see if the masses have got some good taste or if it's a little bit of a miss. I'm going to try and come into this with an open mind. I'm going to apply like 3 criteria to it. First of all, did it disturb me? Because for me, horror, it should be disturbing in some way. I should feel unsettled. Did I find it a unique story? And did it stick with me after I closed the book? We'll take this in reverse order. The first one then is Play Nice by Rachel Harrison. Now, from the back of this, it looks like it's a haunted house book. I'm coming into this with no real expectations. I don't really know anything about Rachel Harrison. However, I do really like the cover, but I don't know much about Rachel Harrison as an author. So my expectations are non-existent right now. However, haunted houses have been done many, many times. Is it going to be anything different? At number 4 was The Bewitching by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I've had this in my TBR for a long time. I think I bought this from Waterstones when it first came out, and I've just not got around to reading it. Horrors seem to have a big focus on the supernatural, and this one's about witches. It talks about 3 women in 3 different eras, which made me have PTSD flashbacks of Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. I'm pointing because it's over there. And I'm really hoping that it isn't similar to that. I haven't read anything by this author. I do really want to get to Mexican Gothic, and I think that's going to be something that I read soon. I've heard good things about her, so this one, I actually am coming in with high expectations. I'm wanting this one to be good. Number 3 is The Buffalo Hunter Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. I've seen a lot of chatter online about how good this is, so I'm coming into this with really high expectations. From what I have heard, it's the supernatural element in this one is vampires, and it's going to be set around like the early 1900s for the majority of it. So again, it's one that people talk about a lot. People talk about in a favourable light. So my expectations are very high of this. Stephen King, Never Flinch. Now, Stephen King is always an undisputed king. I couldn't think of a better phrase there. He is undisputed as the top of the horror chain. I don't know how I'm going to feel about this. Stephen King's a bit of a hit or a miss for me. I am not the biggest Stephen King fan, especially when it comes to things that are classed as horror. For me, Stephen King is better in that thriller phase. I don't know, I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this, but I prefer like James Herbert or Clive Barker when it comes to those horror elements than Stephen King. He is good at creating atmospheres of dread where you're waiting for that next to happen, where it's suspenseful. But I know this one's supposed to be about a serial killer, and it's around like the justice system because we've got Lady Justice at the front. But I'm not coming into this with high hopes. Like I say, Stephen King is very hit or miss for me. And finally, the book that won the Goodreads Horror pick for the Choice Awards in 2025 was Grady Hendrix, and it was The Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. As we know, it's about witchcraft, and it's supposed to be set, I think, in the 70s, where girls have got pregnant outside of wedlock and they're shipped off to a home until they've given birth, until they're allowed to return back to society. I haven't read any Grady Hendrix. I don't really know much about this book. I haven't heard much chatter about it, but I have seen it everywhere. It's on the supermarket shelves when you go to look at the books. And with it being number 1, it's got a lot more votes than the others, so it should be something that I am very excited for. Now, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know if I'm going to do any vlogs or check-ins when I get going, because I feel like if I'm fully absorbed in the book, I'm not going to want to put it down. I'm not going to want to take myself out of it, because then that's going to destroy the essence of the horror book. So if I have got any vlogs or any thoughts in the middle of this, you'll see them now. If I don't, then I will see you in the future when I'm going to discuss each book and then I'm going to rate them to see where I think that they should sit. I haven't really been doing a lot of check-ins for this video, mainly because I've just been vibing and reading, but I have been reading them in order. So I started off with Play Nice. I enjoyed it. The synopsis is it's a haunted house. You know, I enjoyed reading this book. I didn't really like any of the characters, but I don't, again, think that they're supposed to be likeable. I think Cleo especially is supposed to have issues. They have a lot of joint trauma. I think that's a major theme in this book, that trauma of this house and what happened. And also from Cleo's point of view, she was so young, she didn't know if it was real, what was happening. She wasn't truly aware of things. She was supposed to be about 6 when everything was happening in the house. I'm 3 books in, so I've got things to say. But so I actually quite enjoyed this one. I'll talk about towards the end of the video what order I would put them in, but I did quite enjoy this one. The second one in order then is The Bewitching by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. I really enjoyed this book. I liked the 3 point of views that were in different times. Similar to this one though, there's a bit of a book within a book, which leads on to the 3rd book after this, and the main reason why I'm checking it at this point. So the first one, haunted house / demons, and this one's about witches. And it's set in the late 90s. This author, I think the people say that she's more historical, but it's not historical that people would think like Regency times and things like that. It's more the past of a lot of the current generations. So I think that's why historical doesn't always ring true. But yeah, I actually really, really enjoyed this book. It was quite a quick read. You've got the 3 point of views. You've got 1998, which is Minerva. You've got her great-grandmother Alba from the 1900s. And then you've got this 3rd point of view, which is the author in which she's doing her thesis on. And while she's trying to get more information about background for her main book that she's wanting to study, The Vanishing, it's based upon real life. It's based upon the author and her roommate at university or at college and her disappearing one day without a trace. In the investigation of her trying to find out more information about the author and about this period of her life, she finds a manuscript that she's written. So it's another book within a book, which is when we come to this one. I have got 46 pages in, and it's another book within a book. So I was trying to read them all in order. So Play Nice was number 5, The Bewitching's 4, this one's 3, and I've got Stephen King next, and then Grady Hendrix. But I started this and I was like, are you kidding me? Another book within a book. And I kind of, the trope, I just can't do it again. I just can't. So I think I'm going to have to skip this one and come back. So I do really want to read this one. I've heard some good things. I'm interested to see how this one plays out. I just can't read the trope anymore. So I think I'm going to skip ahead and go to Stephen King, which is Never Flinch. So we're going to have a little bit of a change. Hopefully, I swear to God, if this is book within a book, I'm quitting this entire video. I'm rage quitting it and you're just getting a review of 2 books, all right? I'll say I'll do some check-ins, but I kind of always, I struggle. I always think you guys are going to be bored by like these random like bits of vlogging, but I'll try and check in while I'm reading Never Flinch. But we'll pause on the Buffalo Hunter for the time being and hopefully come back to it after this one and we'll try again. We're a few weeks later. I've got through all of these books now, so it's time to have a chat about them. So Play Nice. I don't know what just fell, and that is not good timing. So Play Nice by Rachel Harrison. I actually enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I would. So the premise is there's history in this book. Cleo is the main character in this book. She is an influencer. She has shared family trauma from when she was younger. When she was around 6, they lived in a house where weird things happened. And her mother increasingly devolved into madness. Because she was the youngest, the other members of her family have told her a lot of tales from around that time and about how bad her mother was. At the beginning of the book, her mum dies. She's the only one that's willing to go to the funeral, and she gets the keys to the house. They didn't realise that they still had it. They thought the house had been sold. And so she decides that she's going to do it up. Cleo in herself is not a likeable character. She is not a likeable character. To be fair, not many of them are, but they all have this shared trauma, and they do feel like very flawed characters, so it makes them very human. And I liked that for the book. Sometimes the characters are made really perfect, or conversely, they're made very superficial, and you just don't quite believe that they're real. That is the complete opposite in this book. You do feel like there is more character to them. So, did it genuinely disturb me? I'm gonna go with yeah, because when I read it, I finished it, and then later that night I got up in the dark to go to the bathroom, and I was looking very suspiciously at dark corners because the demon that's possessing the house comes from the dark corners. So yes, it genuinely did disturb me. It did make me think twice when walking around and not wanting to look in mirrors and thinking, uh-oh, what is there that's going to turn up in the night? Is it unique? Probably not. I don't really think it is. In it, you also have the book that her mother wrote, which was around the house and the things that happened at the time. So you've got a book within a book which has that interesting element to it. I don't think it's anything new. I don't think there's anything that's not been done before. Genuinely an enjoyable book. It did stick with me after I closed the pages. I have already been looking at what other books Rachel Harrison's done because I'm interested to read some more, because I really enjoyed her narrative style and I enjoyed the book in itself. So for me, this was a good one. The next book then was The Bewitching. So you've got 3 points of view. You've got one, which is another book within a book almost. And then you have the present day. And then you've got her great grandmother. Throughout it, you see those storylines join up and have those commonalities. So did it genuinely disturb me? It was definitely a spookier version of witches than some of the books that I've read. There were some points where I was like, oh, I don't like that. So there were elements of it that disturbed me. I don't think the whole book had that tone for me. Play nice, I did have that feeling of dread. I was waiting for that next thing to happen. This, not so much, but there were parts where I was like, oh my God, what is going to happen next? So it didn't evoke the same feelings, but it did have some feelings. So I did enjoy this one quite a lot. Is it unique? I'm going to go with yeah. The witchcraft had some very interesting elements in it, which I haven't seen necessarily in other books. I'm trying to cast my mind back, because like I started off in the witchcraft realm reading the Anne Rice books. In those books, it's like the darker side of witches, and I like that. I'll get onto it when I get to the Grady Hendrix book, but it was. I do find it a little bit more unique, and I liked those different elements of the POVs and the different timelines and how that all came together. So yeah, I'm going to go with yes, it was unique. Did it stick with me after I closed the pages? Yes and no. So like I can recall like the main elements. I don't think it left me with like that feeling that good horrors give you, where you just feel a bit unnerved. I didn't have that. However, it was a book that I enjoyed. And when I closed the page, like I could recall it. There are plenty of books where I close the page and walk away for 5 minutes and I'm like, oh, what did I just read? This wasn't one of them. Number 3, The Buffalo Hunter. As you saw from my blog, I actually reordered how I read this, because this is another book within a book, and after 2, I just couldn't do it. It starts off in 2013, and it's the great granddaughter and the great grandfather's journal had been found, and the local museum wanted to be able to have access to it, so she wanted to read it. So you read this journal, and the journal is written by a preacher who has a Native American sit down in his congregation one day and want to tell his story. I heard it, somebody called it Interview with a Vampire, but instead of the vampire, you had Native American. Instead of Louis, you had Native American. And instead of the interviewer, you had a preacher. And it it is. It's like Interview with a Vampire. I won't go too much into it because I think there's supposed to be like a bigger reveal in it, and I just didn't feel it. Did it genuinely disturb me? It didn't do anything. I finished this book and I went to Reddit and I was like, somebody tell me that they didn't like this book along with me. I just wasn't fussed for it. I found it really difficult to read. I lost interest a lot. There's a lot of Native American terms in here that are never explained to you. You're expected to just work it out for yourself, which is fine in itself, but they're used so much that you just get a bit sick of it. And I can see what he was trying to do, but I was bored. It didn't give me any of those horror feelings. I wasn't worried. I wasn't scared. I wasn't disturbed. I was bored. So this one was a miss for me. Stephen King, Never Flinch. This is the one that I ended up picking up when I got bored of the Buffalo Hunter. I only got about 50 pages into the Buffalo Hunter and I needed to put it down. So Never Flinch by Stephen King. This was not a horror to me. This was not a horror. This was a thriller. It does have multiple POVs and it is in the third person, which is always interesting when you get POVs from the third person. So within the chapter, you have like subsections and each subsection jumps to where the other characters are. And you are kind of just waiting for those to converge because they start off in different places in America. I struggle a lot with Stephen King's narrative style. He has a very distinctive voice. If you read Stephen King, you know what I mean. He's very distinctive voice and I'm just not a fan of it. Sometimes I'm like, I don't want to say overlook it, but sometimes I'm fine with it and it suits the premise of the book. Other times, not so much. I felt like this was one that was not so much. It was an okay thriller. I didn't guess who the murderer was, so that was good. I enjoyed the premise that there was an innocent man convicted and there's an innocent man set up and convicted of a crime he didn't commit, and that the jurors and the people that were part of that trial were being taken out by the serial killer. So the jurors and the people that were responsible for that had consequences, I'll say, because like the way it happens is very different. So it is unique. It is a unique book. To me, it wasn't a horror. It was a thriller. I think it was in the wrong category. I feel like people voted for it because it was Stephen King. Sorry, not really sorry, because I do feel like if it's Stephen King, he's automatically going to be near the top because he has got more readers. You're going to have some more obscure authors or more obscure books, which while they're good, they're not going to have the same readership, and therefore people are going to vote for the ones that they know. And I feel like that was this. When I closed the book, I was probably more relieved that I'd finished it because I wasn't here for it. It was one of the Stephen Kings that didn't click for me. And finally, number one that was voted for was Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. So I said we'd revisit what I was going to say. So as I said, in the premise, this is set in the 1970s. You've got the main character who is Never, or Fern as she becomes, who has been forced to go to a girls' home for the underage girls that are pregnant, and they're basically kept there until they give birth and the kids are adopted out and they can go back to their lives. When I was talking about the bewitching, I kind of stopped myself from talking too much about the witches and the witchcraft contained in it, because I nearly said, yes, it is unique because it's not like a lot of witchcraft books, which are like The Craft. This is like The Craft. I didn't find the librarian character to be just a scary. I didn't find her to be a scary character. I know that like the atmosphere that he was going for was supposed to be more around, like this nice old lady is not so nice anymore, and like they've been given this gift of witchcraft and have been able to make life better for themselves, and they throw it in her face. I wasn't here for it. I just wasn't here for it. I read it. It was another one that I finished and was like, okay. I don't know, unique wise, I think the scenario that they're in this home for wayward girls was unique. I would have liked it if they delved a little bit more into, oh God, what's her name? The lady that runs the home. I would have been, there was more, I had more interest in her story and her backstory than I did in like the witchcraft element. So I just felt like I was interested in the wrong things. I didn't really feel the atmosphere. There was a few spooky things that happened. There was a few more gruesome scenes because it was more like there's a blood price to pay. But none of them really disturbed me. I closed the book and it didn't stay with me. I wasn't overly attached to it. It was an okay book. I have got another Grady Hendrix book downstairs, which is one of the Final Girls books, or is it the Final Girls book? Anyway, but this one, it was just kind of meh. That was 5 different horror books with 5 different experiences. Looking back, it's pretty clear that the Goodreads community has a diverse taste when it comes to horror books. For me, when I step back and reflect, this is how they really stack up in my horror-loving heart. At number 5 for me would be The Buffalo Hunter Hunter. As I said, I was bored. It wasn't the best. Next would be Stephen King, Never Flinch, because while I found The Buffalo Hunter Hunter a bit boring, I wasn't more engaged with this one, but it wasn't a horror. Number 3 should be no surprise, Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. It was better than the other 2. It had more horror elements to it, but it just wasn't my favourite. Number 2 then is The Bewitching. Again, really enjoyed it, enjoyed the premise. The witch element was very different, so number 2. And if you've been keeping track, that means that Play Nice was number 1. I genuinely enjoyed this. It had horror elements to me. I felt disturbed. I felt unnerved. That is what I want from my horrors. What about you guys? Have you read any of these 5? Did you agree with the community votes? Did you agree with my rankings? I'd love it if you let me know your thoughts and your ratings below, and also give me any more weird, wonderful, scary, unnerving horrors below. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe and comment and do all the good things. I'll see you all soon. Bye!